Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are going over the Fox News video with the North Korea defector Yeonmi Park slamming woke schools and shares the dangers of these ideologies. All right, let's get into it.
It's the story of Yeonmi Park. She joins me now on why she fears there's not much time left for America to walk its way out of woke. Yeonmi, great to meet you in person.
Thank you for having me on.
Your life in North Korea, having your parents taken away, you and your sister, you were 9 and she was 13, living by yourself, having to eat bugs to survive, escaping to China, finding your way to South Korea and then to America. And then you find yourself sitting in Columbia University. And what did you notice?
All day long, they talk about how to destroy America. They were dying to dismantle the system.
In what way?
In the name of equity, equality of outcomes, want to be a socialist. So I couldn't believe it. I mean, without capitalism, they cannot have internet. They are on their juice detox. Their problem is having too much food. And with zero gratitude, zero perspective, they were saying the enemy is a capitalism. Enemy is a white man. The exact same thing that my nursery teachers taught me in the classroom.
Because they hate him. They told you in North Korea, America is evil. We're the problem with the world. And you're sitting in New York City and they're saying the same thing.
Yes. I couldn't believe it. Like, did I just transfer back to the North Korean classroom? And they were saying the only solution is a communist revolution.
You look at one gender fluid person and you called him he. And you see him have a meltdown,
Yeah.
or they have a meltdown in front of you.
Yeah.
And you actually feel bad for this person.
Yeah, because for the first time I was realizing this person was also like brainwashed like me when I was in North Korea. I believed that Kim Jong-il could read my mind because that was a brainwashing that I had to believe to survive. Now this person thinks their oppression is somehow their pronouns.
Crazy,
Yes.
right? I mean, I think it's crazy and I'm embarrassed. I want to bring you to this excerpt from your book. Professors and administrators spoke to us like children, and so many students acted accordingly. People my age, literally double my size, who appear to be incredibly fit and well-fed, sometimes reduced to tears discussing feelings they harbored that appeared to have no possible connection to anything they were supposed to be learning about. A lecture on Homer would end up with a white student crying about colonialism. A class on government would take the form of two students trying to outdo each other in LGBTQ allies. In the months I spent studying criminal justice in South Korea, I never learned that injustices could be fought by spinning new ones out of thin air.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like, in some sense, like not having a problem is an actual problem. They are making problem out of nowhere, creating injustice out of thin air.
Right.
And that's the injustice they are fighting here.
Right.
That's so-called social justice is all about fighting 10,000 different pronouns.
It's amazing you could overcome what you overcome and have this type of logic. So you're worried about China and China's influence, especially on colleges. We were able to put this number together. So from 2017 to 2022, listen to how much they've contributed to Harvard: 79 million, Stanford 44 million, Columbia 45, University of Chicago 42, MIT 34, and Berkeley 21, and 3 million at University of Michigan. What do they want? What do you worry about?
This is where Chinese government bought all these institutions, not just in education, even Hollywood. Last year when my first book was trying to become a movie, and the producer sent me a script. In the script it says that China was my promised land. China gave me a safety and refugee, and I called the producer, what are you talking about? He said, this is the only way we can make a North Korean story in current Hollywood.
Are you kidding? So you have to make China look
It's a
great,
promised land.
where they were sold you as a sex slave.
Exactly.
And you escaped to South Korea and China. That's an example of what they want to buy. They want to buy the elite universities with their dollars, and you're setting up a flare. Yeonmi Park, I'm sorry you had to go through what you're going through. I'm embarrassed that you're going through this at Columbia.
So yeah,
There's the problem right there. Is China's influencing our educational system and our news media, and also the movie industry, if you will, and videos as well. And they're pushing propaganda. And then once they get so much money involved in it, nobody wants to have that money pulled back.
Right.
So they, if China says no, you can't say that about us. You can only talk good about us. That's what they do, and that's what she was experiencing with the producer. And so this is how you corrupt a society with lies. And China doesn't care. And the reality, I mean, they're probably overjoyed that we got this whole transgender, LGBTQ, whatever going on in here, because it's just one more brick taken out of the foundation of America and what America is built on.
Right.
So if they think it'll help bring us to a demise, that's fine with them. And God bless her for standing up and making it here, because I mean, that must have been quite a chore getting out of North Korea, getting to China, and then getting to South Korea, and then getting here. And then where she ended up at Colombia.
Yeah.
I mean, at Colombia, and they were trying to sell her as a sex slave in China. Our good friends in China, who our sitting president, has got huge money
Columbia
dealings
was
with
the
him and his
Columbia
son.
University. That's where she went.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's what I'm talking. Yeah, Columbia University. But that's I mean, that's quite a university. I wouldn't send my kids there, and nor I wouldn't pay to send them there. Or matter of fact, any of those ones that she did. I noticed that Berkeley didn't get as much money, I guess, because they were probably already there.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
It takes less money to push Berkeley over.
Yeah. They're already whacked. They've been whacked for decades. Yeah,
Many decades,
it's a shame. And what's happening is she didn't bow down to what she was being taught, because that's what was happening. She was being taught, but the other students did. And the ones who have never experienced anything hard out of life, what they do, they were raised at home for the most part, the kids in the school, all the colleges. Then they went through high school, and they got everything that they needed for there. And then their parents paid to send them to college. Right. So they haven't even been out in the real world at all.
This girl was already sex trafficked under Kim Jong-un, where her parents were taken from her, hopping 4 countries before she even made it to that very classroom that they were so oppressed in. It's crazy. I mean, I imagine her job was hanging open, and and then you watch, and it's like, I mean, she probably had to ask herself, "Am I really in the right place? Should I go somewhere else?" And because I see the writing on the wall of what's happening, Right.
But
the problem is there is nowhere else to go. You're running out of countries.
Yeah, there is. And I mean, that's why I'm a big states' rights issue guy. Is if the states can't push back on this, you can't get a governor or a state legislature to push back on this stuff against the feds, well, you're lost. And you need to get somebody in there who's going to fight against it, because the stuff that they're teaching, those professors, they're earning 6-figure salaries for allowing that kind of nonsense to go on. And teach them the subject they're in, whatever that is, and make them viable candidates for jobs on the outside. But how can they be a viable candidate when they're told that capitalism's bad?
Right.
I mean, how hard are you going to look for a job if you believe that capitalism is bad? And, well, so getting a job must be bad. Well, do you think that communist China and communist North Korea don't have people working? They're just not paying them anything.
Right.
And they're really slaves to the government. And, I mean, so it's asinine. At least in America, you can earn enough money to get yourself out of the hole, pick yourself up in society, and be fairly independent, but it's they don't get that opportunity over there in those countries, and I mean, it's the government first. It's really quite frightening, and something needs to be done in our colleges, because they're churning these kids out. The problem is then they're running for office when they get out of school, right? Their work ethic sucks, and then they think they've got a charge to go ahead and undo what America is built on, because it's so corrupt, what provided them everything they've had for their entire life while they sat around their ass and then went to college for 5 years. It's crazy, and we're undoing ourselves from within. Absolutely, we're absolutely undoing ourselves. I just don't know how we stop it, to be honest with you. I mean, her voice is a great voice, but they're not going to invite her to Columbia to speak.
No, they won't. Luckily, she's got basically 1 million subscribers, and that's a pretty good hedge on a public voice.
She needs a couple 100 million,
and there's what 330 million people in America, somewhere around there. I don't know, somewhere in that vicinity. Yeah. Well, 1 million's a drop in the bucket. She needs a lot more than that, and America needs a lot more than that to listen to her voice and to hear what's going on. Yeah, I've met a number of people who have escaped from Soviet bloc countries, communism, and they all sound like her, every one of them. And they're all. I haven't met one that isn't afraid that's where we're going.
Right. Right.
I haven't met one that isn't afraid that's where we're going. But we're so blind as a people, and the American people don't have the balls to stand up.
Right.
They bitch on Facebook about it, and they'll type something on Facebook. But when it comes to standing up and saying, hey, you know what? No, you're not doing it. There's too few. Yeah. And the only way we're going to do it, I mean, France right now is having protests over because they raised the retirement age from 62 to 64. Mitterrand did it, I guess, and or whoever was in charge there. I forgot. Well, it's not Mitterrand, but whoever their president is of France, and he did it without going through their Congress or whatever, however they're set up. And but holding the protests, they're protesting because it's going to go from 62 to 64 to be able to get their pensions. And you know who is a lot of the protesters? Kids at schools.
Right.
It's like, what the hell's a kid care about somebody who's 62? That, you know, when you're 15, 16, or 20 years old, you're never thinking about 62. You're thinking about 21 or whatever. Correct. And you're not thinking about that. But they're protesting that stuff, and that's because they're programmed. Somebody's programming them about to protest about not getting something free. Mm-hmm. And it's dangerous. It's I mean, we could just watch the rest of the world. And communism doesn't sell communism as, well, we're going to make slaves out of you, and then we're going to scare the hell out of you with secret police, and take your family members away, like happened with her, and you're never going to see them again. They don't sell it that way. They sell it on, oh, you're oppressed and you're this and you're that. That's just a lie.
They sell you the oppression, and then the reality is
they're the oppressor.
It's the oppression.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what you're buying when they're selling it to you.
Right.
Is oppression. What's that? I think it was Franklin who said it. It says is those who will trade their freedom for a little peace and security deserve neither.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, guys. If you guys like this one, comment down below, like and subscribe, and see you guys on the next one.